Good morning, this is Marshall Davis. I am continuing my series exploring biblical stories of spiritual awakening. There are so many wonderful ones. Today, I examine another of my favorites, the story of the prophet Isaiah. Isaiah is the greatest of the writing prophets, it's commonly thought, and one of my favorite prophets in the Hebrew Scriptures. In the 6th chapter of his book, he describes his opening to spiritual reality firsthand and in detail. Often this passage is called the call of the prophet, but you could also call it the spiritual awakening of the prophet. He dates the event to the year that King Uzziah died, which is 740 BC. That initial sentence immediately tells us something. It says that for some people, spiritual awakening can be such a decisive event that it can be dated. For other people, it seems to be more gradual. For nearly everyone, there is a process of continued awakening that happens after the initial shift in perspective. For some people, this initial opening happens in a religious setting. That was the case with Isaiah. It's also a case with the former Trappist monk and non-dual teacher Francis Bennett. He dates his spiritual awakening to 2010 in the middle of Catholic Mass while partaking of the Eucharist. That's what he called a radical perceptual shift in consciousness. The prophet Isaiah also had such a shift in consciousness in the midst of a religious setting. For him, it was in the Jewish temple in Jerusalem. Presumably, he was worshiping in the temple. And during that worship service, earth opened up to heaven. You can call this a vision if you want. It often is. I see it as stepping through the veil of time and space. Isaiah saw what Jesus called the kingdom of God. In Isaiah's imagery, heaven appeared as the throne room of God. He writes, "In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting on a throne high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple." He continues, "Above it stood seraphim. Each one had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, with 2 he covered his feet, with 2 he flew. And one cried to another, saying, 'Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory.'" That is the inspiration, of course, for that great Christian hymn, "Holy, holy, holy." Isaiah saw the holiness of God, and he saw this holiness as filling the whole world. This is a perfect description of non-duality. The Hebrew word for holy is kadosh, which means separate. So this is separation and duality. And this image here is that of a Middle Eastern monarch type of deity sitting on a throne, high and lifted up. So this is the traditional transcendent theistic deity. But then in the next breath, it says that this God's glory filled the whole earth. This is divine immanence. So we have both transcendence and immanence in one picture. That is non-duality. The symbol that comes to mind is the yin-yang symbol of unity in duality. Opposites are one. Transcendence and immanence are one. Samsara is nirvana. Brahman is Maya. Seeing duality as a greater unity. Everything is holy. Peter Mayer wrote a song, he sings a song called Holy Now, and I think I've mentioned it before in a podcast. I know I've talked about it in a blog. Here are the lyrics. When I was a boy, each week on Sunday we would go to church, pay attention to the priest, and he would read the Holy Word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad. Miracles don't happen still. And now I can't keep track, because everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. He continues, when holy water was rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips. Now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down. Now I walk with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Now there are more verses to this, and there's a refrain. I encourage you to look at it. But you get the point here. I don't have to quote any more. If I had to choose an anthem for Christian non-duality, this would be it. Everything is holy now. That is what Isaiah saw. The holiness of the transcendent Hebrew deity not only filled the temple, but filled the whole world. That's what is symbolized in the gospel when the veil of the temple was torn in two at Jesus' death, letting the holiness out of the temple into the whole world. Everything is holy. Non-dual awakening is seeing firsthand this holiness and wholeness. Heaven and earth are one. With that realization comes another insight, because all is one. We cease to exist as separate entity. That's what Isaiah experienced. In response to this wholeness and holiness, Isaiah cries out, "Woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts." I love this verse. He says, I am undone. He feels like he's just coming apart, dissolving, falling apart, ceasing to exist. The Hebrew word used here, dama, literally means to cease to exist, to perish, to be destroyed. This was my experience in spiritual awakening. In the midst of the wholeness, I cease to exist as a separate entity. The Apostle Paul knew this. He wrote, "It's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me." What I thought I was, a separate little human being, is seen as an illusion in the presence of ultimate being, the ground of being, divine reality. Isaiah was undone as a separate person. He fell apart. He realized he was not. Not only does the divine presence fill everything, but nothing can stand in the presence of this divine reality. Everything is one with the divine reality. Then in the story of Isaiah's awakening, two more things happen. One is that all sense of sin is taken away from Isaiah. He writes, "Then one of the seraphim flew to me, having in his hand a live coal, which he had taken with the tongs from the altar, and he touched my mouth with it. And he said, 'Behold, this has touched your lips. Your iniquity is taken away, and your sin purged.'" Sin is the biblical word for separation, a sense of being separate from the divine. And it is accompanied by the feeling of guilt that that compounds the sense of separation, that sense of sin and guilt and separateness was completely taken away in spiritual awakening. And it remains the primary sense that we have of reality. I don't understand why so many Christians want to hold on to that sense of separation all the time when we are actually one with God. Actually, I do understand that, because they want to remain real as a separate being. But it's too bad. This keeps us from union with God. The second thing that happens is the need to try to communicate this experience of non-dual reality. Isaiah writes, "Also I heard the voice of the Lord saying, 'Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?' And then I said, 'Here I am, send me.' And he said, 'Go and tell this people, keep on hearing, but do not understand. Keep on seeing, but do not perceive.'" Now, the Divine Commission continues here, but that's the gist of it. That's the core of it. God is saying that Isaiah is to communicate this reality that he has seen firsthand, but when he tries to do that, people won't get it. They will hear, but not understand. They will see, but not perceive. As Jesus said, they have ears, but do not hear, eyes, but do not see. This is talking about the impossibility of communicating non-dual reality in words. It's a problem I face every time I do one of these episodes. This cannot be communicated in words or thoughts or ideas, because this is not a philosophy or theology or a worldview. This is a direct apprehension of reality without distinction between what is seen and the one seeing and the process of seeing. It's all one. And to communicate this, all you can do is use analogies and metaphors. Isaiah replies, "How long am I to proclaim this?" And God replies, "Until the cities are laid waste and without inhabitant, the houses are without a man, and the land is utterly desolate." That also goes on. But in other words, he's saying, keep on doing it until there's no one left to listen. That's the plight of non-duality. Proclaiming a gospel that cannot be adequately proclaimed, and that people will not understand, and they will not believe. And I guess that's about all I can say about this. That's it for today. Grace and peace to you.